The air inside the barracks was stale, a mix of disinfectant, damp wool, and something metallic that shouldn't have been there. Outside, February wind dragged across the Bavarian plain, rattling loose tin and frozen wire. Inside, a single light bulb flickered as a woman sat upright on a cot. Hands folded, eyes steady. This should not be happening. The American Army doctor had seen starvation. He had seen shock. He had treated men pulled from rubble and snow. But what he was about to witness, from a German woman classified as an enemy prisoner of war, would rupture everything he thought he understood. Scientists were not prepared for what happened next. The setting was Stalag 7A near Moosburg, Germany. Spring 1945. The war was collapsing inward on itself. Berlin was weeks from falling. But here, far from the front, another pressure zone was forming. Stalag 7A was the largest POW camp in Nazi Germany. More than 80,000 prisoners had passed through its gates. French, Soviet, American, British, and now Germans. As Allied forces advanced, the camp became a holding zone, not just for soldiers, but for civilians deemed useful, dangerous, or unexplainable. Among them was a woman in her early 30s. Her name, according to intake papers, was Irmgard K. Nationality German. Occupation nurse. Status POW. No rank, no visible injuries. No signs of trauma, at least none that instruments could detect. The American Medical Corps assigned Captain Daniel Reeves, an Army physician trained in battlefield triage, to evaluate prisoners flagged for irregular presentation. It was routine. Vitals, reflexes, nutritional status. But within minutes, Reeves noticed anomalies. Her pulse was low, too low. Her breathing shallow but perfectly timed. Skin temperature slightly elevated despite the cold, like a system holding heat beneath the surface. Medical science at the time had a name for what they expected to find. Combat exhaustion, or neurosis. Hysteria, as it was still wrongly labeled. But Irmgard showed none of it. She made eye contact, answered questions calmly, and when Reeves tested pain response, she did not flinch. This was the first warning tremor. Other doctors dismissed it. She's numb. She's dissociating. She's trained herself not to react. But Reeves felt it. A pressure building along an unseen fault line, because humans like the Earth do not suppress energy forever. And what came next shocked everyone. The trigger came during a routine neurological exam. A reflex hammer. A light. A question that should have meant nothing. Where were you stationed during the bombing of Dresden? The effect was immediate. Her pupils dilated. Respiration spiked. Muscle tension surged through her neck and jaw. On Reeves's clipboard, the line of calm broke sharply upward. This was not memory. This was pressure release. In geological terms, this was a seismic spike. Irmgard didn't scream. She didn't cry. She spoke. She described temperatures, how human skin changes color at specific heat thresholds. She listed times, distances, oxygen depletion rates inside fire shelters. She was not recalling horror. She was measuring it. Reeves stopped the exam. Around them, other doctors gathered. The camp generator hummed. Outside, a train whistle cut through the air. Inside, something had breached containment. Medical language failed. There was no diagnosis for this. No model. No precedent. Word spread fast through the medical unit. An intelligence officer was called. Then another. Files were pulled. Records cross-checked. Irmgard had not just been present at Dresden. She had been part of civil defense triage, embedded in underground shelters during the firestorm. She had cataloged injuries, burn depths, smoke inhalation timelines, structural collapse patterns. She had stayed underground while the city above became a furnace. And she had survived. Then the alarms went silent. Not literal alarms, but procedural ones. No one knew who had authority now. Was she a witness? A collaborator? A victim? Rescue teams froze not from danger but uncertainty. Because Irmgard wasn't breaking down. She was escalating. During a second exam, she corrected Reeves's terminology. Not shock, she said. Hypoxia-induced euphoria, followed by terminal panic. The room went cold. Residents, prisoners, guards. Doctors had only minutes to react before something irreversible occurred. American doctors argued late into the night. One theory, extreme dissociation, the mind sealing itself off. Another, pathological detachment, a rare survival response. A visiting psychiatrist proposed something radical for 1945. She may not be damaged, he said. She may be adapted. Charts were drawn, sleep cycles mapped, language patterns analyzed, her brain activity measured through reflex latency, and response timing suggested hyper-efficiency, like a system rerouted under catastrophic load. This changed everything, because no model had predicted this scenario, not in war medicine, not in psychology. She wasn't broken. She was restructured. Irmgard was quietly reclassified, not as a prisoner, not as a criminal, but as a material witness. Her testimony later informed post-war firestorm research, urban evacuation modeling, civil defense planning, airports closed decades later during firestorms, villages redesigned, shelters reinforced, based in part on data gathered by people like her. She disappeared into history. No trial, no headline. Captain Reeves returned home changed. He would later write that the most frightening thing he saw in the war was not destruction, but what the human mind can become when pushed past its limits. Today, psychologists still study cases like Irmgard's, not because they are rare, but because they are warnings. The Earth releases pressure through earthquakes. Volcanoes erupt, but the human mind? Sometimes it doesn't break. It adapts,